Overwatch right now is extremely broken, and that's for quite a lot of reasons. You know, whether you chalk it up to being 5v5, whether it be the way new heroes have been designed, or whatever reason, it doesn't matter. I want to go over a couple of reasons as to why Overwatch is kind of really bad right now, and why it's probably going to be really bad for a long time if they don't start fixing it. Firstly, obviously, there's 5v5, which is really, really bad, but that's actually not what I'm going to talk about primarily, because I'm pretty sure everyone knows how bad 5v5 is, and it would be pointless to go over that. The thing I want to talk about is the environment of the heroes in the game. For example, things like McCree and Ashe existing in the same game as like Genji and like Baptiste, where they are like Ashe and Kree are so fundamentally different to heroes like Genji and Baptiste, and that's not necessarily problematic that they're different. The issue is that their differences do not come together to create something in like harmony. They instead go against each other. It's like going against the grain when any of these heroes interact with each other. And that applies to like a lot of heroes, like Brig as well. Like a lot of heroes in the original cast are very harmonistic. They work very well together. Like for example, in Overwatch 1 and 6v6, like Ryan and Zarya were naturally just extremely good heroes to run together. They just made sense. They both flowed the same way. The flow of the game was the same when those two heroes were picked and not picked together, meaning that regardless of who you picked with Ryan or Zarya, you got a similar outcome because the way they synergized together, they dictated the flow of the game in a healthy way. Unlike some other heroes, where you can have something like Widow on the enemy team, and another hero like Baptiste on the enemy team, and these heroes don't come together to create something, they are just their own individual powerhouses. Now, I said the original cast were pretty good. I agree for the most part. I don't think Widow should be classified as like original cast. I think that's offensive. She obviously is original cast, but she's such a fundamentally broken hero that comparing her to the rest of them, it just seems unfair. Because the rest of them are fairly balanced for the most part. Like, I mean, I guess Zen isn't either, but at least Zen used to, back in the day, have those kind of weaknesses that made him a hero that could harmonize with other heroes. Like, for example, Zen back in the day had 175 HP and get one-shot body shot by a Widowmaker, which was obviously not balanced, but at least he had some sort of weakness, unlike today where he's got super high health, great melee damage, good close quarters combat, good long range combat, good survivability, good cooldowns, good damage output, healing. He kind of has everything because he is his own thing now, unlike back in the day where he had certain weaknesses that had to be made up for. And then we get to a hero like Baptiste, where Baptiste as a hero is just kind of like really aids, to be honest. Like, he doesn't really have anything that you can do about him, right? For example, if you jump him as Tracer, then he's just going to jump really high in the air, and that means you're probably not going to be able to kill him as Tracer, because he's going to get things like Peel, which means that he just kind of deletes that interaction from the game. It's not that he is outplaying an interaction or participating in it and winning in an interaction, he's just voiding it completely because of an overpowered part of his kit, essentially. And the same thing applies to Immortality Field, where if you pop Immortality Field, you are not necessarily outplaying whatever thing you're immortalitying, you're just kind of voiding its existence entirely, because that's just how the hero is designed, and it's that kind of design philosophy that has kind of ruined the game for the most part. Where a lot of heroes, for example, the newer released ones like Sojourn, just fundamentally break the game. Like, Sojourn as a hero right now is a hero that basically you just pick her, you stand in the middle of your team, and you just charge railgun, and then you tag someone a little, you tag a squishy a little bit, and then you dome them. And it's like, obviously that's simplifying it. There's obviously a little bit more to it, but there's really not that much more to it. There's still like, that's basically it. You're just gonna shoot people. And then you have heroes in the original cast like Lucio, where if you want to do something, there's trade-offs. So, for example, let's say you like being a Reddit Lucio, you like going in for the big damage, the big kills, you want to go hunt the Widow. Well, you can do that, but that means that you're not with your team anymore, right? Like, you have to take the trade-off of, I gotta leave my team to go for this Widow, or I gotta path a certain way, which means I'm gonna be out of the fight for a certain amount of time, which means that, maybe they're gonna be able to take advantage of the fact that I can't speed my team out, and they're gonna use these ults because I'm not gonna be able to speed them away because they know I'm going for the Widow, right? There were interactions like that, but now, today, there's just, oh, they have a Sojourn, oh, she right-clicked me across the map, there's literally nothing I can do, there's no interaction, because let's say you do close the distance on the Sojourn, it doesn't matter because her projectile gun is extremely good at close range, her railgun is extremely good at close range, you don't even need to headshot people with it, you can body shot people with it, and she's got hyper mobility and AoE damage, a tiny hitbox. It's like, she just doesn't really have a weakness, which kind of ruins the flow of the game. Like, for example, how Rhine has a weakness, and how Zarya has a weakness. And together they made up for those weaknesses, and they created the flow of the game, is the exact opposite of how a Sojourn interacts with the game, where she doesn't really have a weakness, so she kind of just dictates the flow of the game on her own. And then you combine that with another hero like Baptiste, who also combines the flow of the game on his own. And then you have two heroes fighting to essentially change the flow of the game individually as their own hero and not as a team. Where as a team originally you could build synergistic comps in Overwatch 1 to dictate the flow of the game a little better. But now today you can do that with a single hero. So then you've got you're running into situations where you're going, okay, let's say I'm on Tracer and I need to go kill like the Baptiste. If I go for him, he just jumps really high up into the air, he emos, burst heals, he does a shitload of damage, he's got AoE healing, so it's just like really, really difficult to kill. And then that Sojourn is there, and she's just deleting my team. She's just railgunning them over and over again, and then I have to make a decision between going for the Baptiste or going for the Sojourn, and that's completely fine. I should have to make that decision. However, the problem is because they don't rely on each other at all, and they work alone, it means that interacting with one of them doesn't mean that I'm going to interact with the other one, which means that they can both dictate the flow of the game at the same time, which means that if I'm killing the Sojourn, nothing changes because they still have that overpowered Baptiste doing shitloads of damage and deploying out of all of his utility and doing all the healing he's doing. And because there's no synergy, there's no requirement for either of them to interact with each other, it means that the flow of the game is completely killed because it's changing so often. That's how you're jumping from really fast-paced to really slow to really fast to really slow over and over and over again as different heroes and enemy teams interact with each other. Which is really, really bad for the game, because now we get situations like this where you're going, wow, that's a really, really fast-paced comp, they're rushing on top of us, but they also have the strength of being able to just kind of kill you anyway at range, right? They don't have that weakness before, whereas a rush comp, you would be able to, like, for example, if you're playing a rush comp, you would have to dedicate all those resources to rushing, and you would only be good at rushing. But now you can play rush comps where you have, like, a Sojourn in the backline, and although you're getting rid of some of your rush ability, you're not going to be able to rush as hard. It generally doesn't matter because Sojourn is so ludicrously overkitted and powerful anyway that you don't even really need you're better off just not running the brawl or the rush anyway, because the Sojourn is so good at everything that she will be able to just kill everything. And I think having a jack of all trades hero is fine. I think Genji's a bit of a jack of all trades. But the difference with Genji is that he's not really good at anything. He just can kind of do everything, so that no matter what you choose to do, you're going to have minimal impact regardless. Is unlike Sojourn, where you can do whatever the fuck you want, and also excel at it because of how the character is designed. The problem with Overwatch right now is two things. It is format and bad hero design. I would say balance is probably smaller than these two things. I think balance is less bad than the overall hero design and the format of the game, because it doesn't matter how balanced your game is if you have fundamentally terrible hero design that make overkitted, overpowered characters with no weakness, no synergistic qualities, no harmony, no need to interact with each other or enemies or teammates. things like that, and you can just kind of have power over yourself. I think those are problematic heroes. Combine that with the fact it's 5v5, and the balance of the game in general is just going to be completely fucked, because that one tank needs to be able to do absolutely everything, and if they don't, they're getting counter swapped, and then you just have all these issues combining together to make a really horrible experience. And that is why I think Overwatch is a really, really bad game.